any chance to open the Carver Corporation again?
None.
Yo, is two-channel stereo dead?
No! Two-channel stereo is making a comeback. It really is. Vinyl's making a strong comeback. Oh man, I can remember, well, I don't remember 78s, but there used to be 78s, and it took about 20 years to shift over to LPs. And they lasted about 20 years. Then we shifted over, actually not quite, they lasted more like 10 to 15 years. Then we shifted over to CDs, and it's been 20 years since CDs came out. And now we're shifting over to two things: vinyl on one hand, and downloads to hard drives on another. So vinyl's here, two channels are here, it's making a strong comeback, and I'm happy to see it. And some of the stores, I remember going into record stores, there'd be piles of LPs, and then it changed to CDs. And now the CDs are starting to be very few and far between on the shelves, and there's vinyl coming back. It's a great feeling. I love it.
Vinyl rules.
Vinyl rules. Vinyl rules. Vintage tube amps rule. or solid state amps with 1.5 ohm resistors.
You indicated in a recent TAS interview that a D-class amp could never sound as good as they are today because of this some issue easily explained by physics. What is your explanation?
That's right. I never finished that. That question was posed, but we never finished it off. The current amplifier designers want to have very, very low distortion, including the guys that are designing switching amps. And they're very smart people. I'm sure that some of them are geniuses. They always build the amplifier, and because the amplifiers have to have an output filter, it's impossible to get them to put the feedback loop from the output filter back to the input, except in very, very small amounts. They all put the feedback in front of that filter. And the result is that when you run that filter into a loudspeaker, it changes the frequency response and the tonality of the system. And by unfortunate accident, it changes it in a really horrendous way. Basically, it puts a big notch and boost in the upper mid-range, right at 3 and 4 kilohertz. Now, 3 and 4 kilohertz is the worst place, for your ear. That's where the first cochlea turn is. You know, your ears has all these nerve endings, and it goes around, looks like a snail inside. But the first turn is right where those filters make very bad things happen in switching amps. And it's so easy to fix. You have to view that output filter the way a vintage vacuum tube amplifier, and they're all dead now, would have viewed an output transformer. Treat it that way, and you can make a beautiful sounding switching amplifier. And I've actually done it. But you have to, that output filter has the characteristics exactly of a very fine output transformer, except it's better in the low end. But for the high end, it can be as sweet as you please. But you have to not try to put so much feedback around it to get the distortion down in the triple aught nothings region. Just be happy to get it down to 0.5%, 1/4%, just like a tube amp. And it'll sound like a nice tube amp. And it's an easy fix, but so far nobody's done it. And that's the main reason that switching amps don't sound good. Their other problem is they always blow up. And the reason they always blow up is because they have these transistors. And the transistors switch on, this one switches off, off, on, off, on. And quantum theory tells us and teaches us that sooner or later they're both going to switch on, because they switch on and off trillions of times in their lifetime. So quantum mechanics tells us, without any uncertainty, believe it or not, that's almost ironic, but that sooner or later the thing's got to blow up. I'm joking, but not much actually. And they do, they blow up all the time for a variety of technical reasons. Because sooner or later those two of the transistors get switched on by accident, and even for a fraction of a second, that puts the full B plus from B plus to B minus, goes right down through those two transistors in their history. So, and to solve that problem, the manufacturers have developed all sorts of ingenious ways to prevent them from turning on simultaneously. And also, they've made them very wimpy. The switching amps can't deliver high voltage, can't deliver high current like a regular amp can. And they're pretty underpowered. And when you get them, I mean, they're not that lightweight anymore. A good one has a pretty beefy power supply. And the power supply takes up all the weight. The switching part is very lightweight, but it blows up. It doesn't have much power and so on. So those are the two issues that are standing with. They will be solved. There are too many bright people working on switching amps. So probably in our lifetime, we'll see great ones. I'm hoping, I'm counting on it. Maybe I'll even design one. Because I've been designing tube amps. I'm probably the only amplifier designer alive that can design a feedback loop around an output transformer and can put a good feedback system around a switching amp. And I've built lots of power amps in my life. But I don't think anybody's done both at the same time that I know of. Probably some of the vintage guys, you know, like the guys at Conrad Johnson. Boeing has a problem too. I'll sidetrack a little bit. I have Boeing engineer friends. And they say, Bob, you know, we have this perfectly good landing gear that we've designed and goes in our airplanes and we've been using it for years. But the engineers are retiring. And the new engineers come along and they say, well, we can design a better landing gear. And they design it and then it collapses on the first rough landing. They didn't get it right. So they work around and fix it. And that's sort of, that's a transitional period, which will last for a very brief time period. With Boeing, they get it fixed before they put the airplane in production. And amplifiers are the same. Any technology is like that. But I'm babbling. Next question, please.
What chemicals and which company, if you remember, are used in the anodizing method for the Carver Sunfire Lightstar frames or chassis for faceplates?
Black anodize, and it's for the black ones or the charcoal ones, and then no anodize at all. I mean, so, you know, no anodized dye for the silver ones. With that, I would like to take about a 10-minute break. And we'll take a break for about 10 minutes and then come back and we'll finish up the Q&A.